In this lesson, we're going to look at the business process reengineering and process change projects, and that's a mouthful. Now, a business process is something you can define as a set of interrelated work activities characterized by specific inputs and value-added tasks that are going to produce specific customer-focused outputs. Now, any output produced by a process should be bound to your business objectives and follow your defined corporate standards. We call this business process reengineering BPR. Now, when we combine BPR with what we talked about earlier with ERP, it's often referred to as a package-enabled reengineering or a PER, a PER. The goal for us is to automate system processes to avoid manual interventions and manual control. So if we can find a way to take an existing system and re-engineer it to get rid of those manual interventions and manual control and put more automation into it, well, that's an example of our doing a re-engineering. Now, the use of BPR has resulted in a lot of new business processes. New priorities can come about based on the value and customer requirements. Concentration on process is a means of improving a product, a service, or profitability. So if we can re-engineer some of those processes, that's our goal, right? We want to improve on that product, service, or profitability. We can get new methods to organize and motivate people internally and externally by offering new services. We can get new approaches to these technologies to be able to develop or produce and deliver goods and services. Through this re-engineering, we can get new approaches to the use of information. We can refine the roles for suppliers, including outsourcing, joint development, quick response, just-in-time inventory, and other supports. A newly designed business process will inevitably involve changes in the way in which business is done. That can impact the finances, hopefully for a good impact, philosophy, and even the personnel of the organization. The BPR team needs to consider these changes to the organization's culture, structure, and direction. In fact, one of the major concerns of BPR is that your key controls may need to be re-engineered to match this new business process. In fact, you might not even have the controls in place to match the new things that this re-engineered piece of software can do. Along in this process is a thing called benchmarking. Benchmarking is about improving your business process. You can think of it as a continuous, systematic process to evaluate the products, the services, or processes of an organization. Now, these processes and services should be analyzed for things like comparing them and ranking, for your strategic planning, for your investment decisions, maybe takeovers and mergers, for your product or process designs, and of course, in the BPRs that we just talked about. Now, the benchmarking process, you can follow a couple of the steps that I'm about to talk about and use these as general guidelines of benchmarking. So at the planning stage, where critical processes are defined, might be a place for benchmarking. Research, which involves collecting baseline data about a process, maybe in the observation part where data is collected from the benchmarking partner. Analyzation would be the summarization and interpretation of the data that was collected. When we talk about the process of adopt, that means the adoption of the results of the benchmarking. And this can be difficult because it needs to be translated into a few core principles, and from those principles to strategies, and from strategies into action plans. So we're doing a lot with the results of that information. And of course, the improvement, the continuous improvement, should be a key focus in benchmarking. ISO 9126 is an international standard to assess the quality of software products based on some of the following things: the functionality, your ability to verify that the function satisfies the stated or implied needs; the reliability, which is a measurement of the capability of software to maintain a certain level of performance; the usability, which is focused on how much effort is needed by the users to use this program; efficiency is a relationship between the level of performance and the amount of resources that are needed. It's rated on maintainability, which can mark the needs to make specific or specified modifications. We can also rate it on portability, which is the ability of software to be able to move from one environment to another. Another model we can look at is the software capability maturity model. Now, this is a process of identifying the maturity of your software programs. And there's actually 5 maturity levels that are attainable by software organizations. Now, I was telling a story about this guy that I knew that owned a bus company, and basically the school buses for a school district near where I live. And had this project that he thought I would be able to do because I, say the words or the letters IT somewhere in my profession. And what they wanted was this recording of students on, students off, number of stops, time in between stops, all this stuff to help them and try to coordinate a better route. And of course, my recommendation was to use existing software, GIS-based stuff, or if anything else, just get a good GPS and figure that out. But anyway, I could have tried. I could have said, okay, I'm going to put something together, boom, 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 type it out. Here it is. And that would have been my ad hoc approach. No real planning, no design, probably not even repeatable, probably not even workable. But that is kind of an infancy of software design. Now, the next level of maturity is repeatable. That's where there's a more disciplined, managed process where I can establish a plan, a schedule, and functionality. And in fact, it might be that maybe I actually put some planning into it, and maybe I documented the different portions of my code so that after I turned it in, if it wasn't working well or if it needed changes, I would be able to go back and kind of get a good idea where to put those changes in. The defined level of maturity is another improvement from repeatable. That should mean that I have real documentations and standardizations. The next level from that is managed. Once I have processes that are well defined and applied to the organization, and I can develop a quantitative managed control over the software projects, then that means, I'm really in sync, right? I have groups probably together, well-defined, an organization. They can develop simultaneously different pieces of the program, and we can put it together. And then the next and the most mature is optimizing. At this point, the organization has the ability to quantitatively and successfully control all of their software projects. But that's, again, another kind of way in which we can model the maturity of a program, rather than looking at an ISO standard. Now, the ISO 15504 is known as the Software Process Improvement and Capability Determination. They call it SPICE. I haven't figured out the E yet. But anyway, this serves as a baseline for process improvement, for benchmarking, and it uses best practices. The reference models it looks at are the types of software lifecycle processes, your system lifecycle processes, the human-centered lifecycle processes. And then it looks at your component-based development, your IT service management, your quality management systems, your automatic embedded software, and even medical device software.